very much. The next person who is scheduled to speak when the Wendler is going to submit her testimony but is not able to speak.
I just asked that my time be given to the only active duty officer here today, and Carly refused to let me do that. But Captain Hamden is here and would like to take my slot just like they did, if you will let him.
Oh, very well. All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Captain Charles Hamden, and I do hope that General Franks is feeling better. Persian Gulf War was the largest opportunity for manufacturers of military hardware to showcase their latest models, and it was also an opportunity for the military medical community to try its new arsenal of preventive inoculations and chemical precursors. But unknown to those that were part of this experiment, the lasting side effects we would suffer. Steve Robertson, the legislative director of the American Legion, said in an interview on public radio along with Dr. Stephen Joseph that he did not consider Gulf War vets to be used as guinea pigs. The fact of the matter is that we were human guinea pigs. 4 years after the war ended, the Department of Defense physicians searched for an answer for Gulf War syndrome. They have looked at sand fleas, oil well fires, environmental hazards, and others looking for a silver bullet. All of these factors were present, but no one has begun to look at the vaccines as a cause of the maladies that veterans and their families suffer from. The Comprehensive Clinical Evaluation Program, a series of tests being administered for a cause of this illness, have been evaluated by civilian physicians as being superficial and limited. It would seem that if you know what you're looking for, you would know what tests not to run. And with the scientific research being done by Drs. Garth and Nancy Nicholson, they wouldn't know where to look. The Nicholsons have isolated a mycobacterium called Mycoplasma incognitus that is communicable between humans and should be considered moderately infectious. This finding contradicts the Veterans Administration's claim that there is no evidence of transmissibility. This mycoplasma is being spread among family members and causes clusters, just like chronic fatigue syndrome. Unfortunately, the antibiotic treatment that they recommend is only a treatment, for as now, there is no cure. The question that the Department of Defense needs to answer is, where did this mycoplasma come from, and was it in tainted vaccines? Dr. Shai Lowe, the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, has stated that this mycoplasma is also found in chronic fatigue syndrome patients and AIDS patients. Dr. Lowe has gone on record to say that this mycoplasma could cause death on its own. Based on Drs. Nicholson and Dr. Lowe's finding, we are suffering from a non-HIV autoimmune deficiency syndrome, or non-HIV AIDS. The government has claimed that no chemicals were used in the Gulf. That may be true to a certain extent, but they gave it to the soldiers via pyridostigmine bromide pills. Senator J. Rockefeller in the Senate Veterans Affairs report dated December 8, 1994, stated that pyridostigmine is a nerve agent itself, and in conjunction with DEET pesticide, makes a DEET 7 times more toxic. So it doesn't matter if the chemicals are deployed in the Gulf, our leaders chemically altered the soldiers themselves. The injections of anthrax and botulism that the soldiers received were given investigational status and were given to soldiers with no warning of possible side effects. When I received my inoculations, I was told what the shot was, but did not receive any information concerning the vaccine, and it has not and will not be transcribed in my medical records. These vaccines have no history of human testing, were not FDA approved, and should not have been used on soldiers. While the Defense Department saying that they were necessary to protect the soldiers in case of exposure, takes responsibility off those individuals that approved their use. These bureaucrats made a decision based on so-called military intelligence from their offices, and now the soldiers they were protecting are suffering. Everyone is avoiding the fact that the vaccines were tainted. During Operation Desert Storm, Pentagon officials had to supplement sources of vaccines with experimental drugs produced by the British and Japanese. But these companies are not regulated by the FDA and are not subject to their convoluted approval guidelines. Whether the vaccines are made in the United States or in other countries, the soldiers were guinea pigs, part of a sick experiment. Even the federal court system has thrown soldiers and their freedom against involuntary participation in medical experiments out. In early 1991, Public Citizen filed a federal suit, John and Jane Doe versus Secretaries Cheney and Sullivan, to block the government from using GIs as unwilling guinea pigs to experiment with untested and unproven vaccines to allegedly protect the soldiers against certain biowarfare agents. Also, the military has a record of using unapproved and delicensed vaccines on soldiers. An example, as late as 1982, soldiers were still receiving adenoviruses vaccines, delicensed by the FDA in 1963. My family, as well as thousands of others, are sick. They're suffering mental, physical, and financial hardship while our leaders decide which lie to tell next. Soldiers throughout the years have suffered at the hands of the governments, and when will it stop? It is time for our leaders to take a stand, tell the truth, and support our veterans through actions, not rhetoric.
Thank you very much. I would ask the audience to hold applause. It only takes up our time. You're Captain Charles Hamden,
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
correct? You were on the schedule for 4:20 this afternoon. I don't know where the mix-up in information was. So Wendy Wendler, if you would like to testify this afternoon at 4:20 in Dr. Hamden's spot, you may do so. And we'll get both of you because we had both of you on the schedule. Are there questions for Captain Hamden? Dr. Schwartz.
Can you tell me anything more about the Mycoplasma incognitus?
The research that Drs. Garth and Nancy Nicholson have done is that what they do is they do forensic PCR and gene tracking to go within the white blood cells, the leukocytes, to find the mycoplasma that has embedded itself within the cell structure and the nucleus. So the Nicholsons have done extensive work with that.
Do they have any kind of scientific reports yet on what they found? They do have something?
They have preliminary reports out there. Dr. Garth Nicholson had spoken to officials of the VA and DOD a week ago last Friday about some of the work that he's doing. Dr. Mather and Dr. Murphy were there. They might be able to give you more information on his speech. And also Dr. Lowe was there.
I'm sure we'll be able to get that information. Dr. Kaplan.
Do you know if there are any samples of lots of the vaccines still in existence?
I'm not sure if the anthrax and the botulism were gone. We also receive gamma globulin shots. When the soldiers were preparing to go to Saudi Arabia the second time, they had run out of gamma globulin shots. But one thing that they also did with the soldiers going there, they gave doxycycline as a prophylactic measure, and they did not receive some of the shots. Another thing that the problem is having, people that were prepared for deployment for Desert Storm received the shots but did not go. They're also suffering the same maladies that the people who were in theater.
Landrigan?
Captain, you said your vaccines were never recorded on your medical record and never would be. What do you mean by that?
When we got our vaccines, we got our botulism vaccine approximately 1 month before the ground war started. We got our anthrax injection February 23rd. We signed our name on a yellow piece of legal paper. I've never seen it in my medical records. That piece of paper is probably sitting in the desert somewhere in Iraq right now, for all I know. They have never been recorded. The people that I've seen that were in my unit in the 101st Airborne Division, theirs have never been recorded either.
Further questions? Yes. Go ahead, please.
Just for the record, I would like to say that I received the anthrax vaccine as well, and wanted to see for myself whether or not it was in my medical record, and it is not recorded.
It is not. Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Real. We're just on time and ready for a break. We will resume again promptly at 3:30.
Big shout out to Captain Charles Hamden. This should sound very familiar. Mycoplasma LABROTORIUM 2.0 we face.